Recording in progress.
All right. It is 7 o'clock on the fourth Tuesday, so I will call the regularly scheduled select board meeting for the town of Middlebury to order. The first item on our agenda is the approval of the agenda. As far as I know, there are no changes to the agenda that was in our packets. Anyone?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, good.
We don't have our three aggressive
Seconders?
and nominators.
Yes, indeed.
We are the silent ones on that list.
We're making do.
It could be a difficult meeting.
We can do it.
The next item is the approval of the consent agenda. There are minutes from our last meeting, from Conservation Commission, and there's some other minutes in there. Infrastructure, thank you.
The agenda notes.
Oh, sure, that'll help. I appreciate it. A state alcohol license for the Marriott. Check warrants. State airport land use review board filing for a new terminal. ACRPC regional plan notice. Clerk of the Works report and other library project documents, and 2 pieces of communications to the select board from the public.
Well, you want to move it first, then just fast?
Sure,
Alright.
let's move it. I'll take that as a motion,
Okay.
Fred.
Second.
Oh, there's a second.
On the minutes,
Yes,
on
Which minutes, Fred?
the
Of ours?
The meeting.
It says minutes 7/9/26 on it, and I don't think we're in July.
no, it should be 6/9/26 as it said.
Anyway, but on line 143 and 144 of that, it says how to show the reserve. We were talking about the local option tax. How to show the reserve funds in the budget was discussed, and Dunnington wanted them to be marked as funds that can't be used without voter approval. That's actually not accurate. Really, you can use reserve funds for the purposes that they're voted for. You just can't use them for other purposes, like the fire equipment account. You can't use it for anything other than fire equipment without
Going to the voters.
voters. Yeah.
Right.
So I think it should just say, put a period after discussed, and then Dunnington noted that reserve funds should be marked as funds that can only be used for purposes approved by the voters, such as the Fire Equipment Fund, Conservation Fund, and Economic Development Fund. I mean, that's, and then the next thing, the next few paragraphs down, lines 154, 155, here we're talking the audit. Brown asked if there was an executive summary for the audit, since the report is difficult to understand. Maybe you asked if there could be one. I don't think there is one.
I asked if there could be one. So we,
Yeah,
for
I think
mere mortals that
okay, just make that
don't
right.
want to read the 99 pages of
Fair
lots
enough.
of things that
Well,
don't understand.
And then at the next paragraph, lines 160, 161, Elder said the select board could also have the auditors to a meeting for them to ask questions. So, and maybe this is a separate thing from this, but you want to discuss later, but does the board want to ask for an executive summary? Do we want to meet with the auditors? Because
Right, and that
Dan made a good
I don't think that belongs in the minutes because I don't think we made those decisions, but we should certainly come to that as we
later on.
engage in the further communications with finance
Okay.
and the budgeting process.
Yeah.
That's probably part of the contractual issues too, right? I mean, if they have a contract with what the auditor supplies, and
Yeah.
Well,
And
there was
spend
there
more
was
money
a
and-
suggestion that we
Maybe.
could
right,
find a new one
Yes.
that doesn't take 9 months to produce.
right.
Because we really need it sooner. Anyway, so those are the minutes correction, and we'll have later on the agenda
Good.
some brief discussion about what we want to do next about the audit and financial stuff.
Okay, so with those edits to our previous minutes, are there any other things to discuss on the consent agenda? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great, moving right along. The next item is citizens' comments. This is a time for people who do not have anything on the agenda to talk to the select board about anything. Anything at all.
Free reigns.
Free reigns, come on up. You got 3 minutes, but I don't start the clock until I think you might go over.
Wonderful.
Welcome.
For those of you who know, I'm Kevin Parizzo. I live on Seymour Street, and I hope all of you received my email. Mark, I want to thank you again publicly for your response to me. It was very kind. Thank you. As you know, we had another weather event last Thursday, and the underpass flooded. And I know I've been a thorn in many of your sides now for several years about this. But what I don't understand is that some of us are being told, oh yes, we're in discussions with the railway. This is going to happen, that's going to happen, this is going to happen. Nothing's happened. The bottom line is 3 years ago, it flooded so badly, it wouldn't have mattered if Printer's Alley was available or not. You could not have gotten any kind of equipment through from whatever they call it now, Middle Seymour, Upper Seymour, whatever that's called, over to where Danforth Pewter. As many of you remember, even the police department flooded on that one. This one was not as devastating, but it did impact the underpass where you couldn't get through. My fear is as a citizen and taxpayer, what happens if we have to have some of the fire apparatus coming down through there? We've been fortunate. We haven't had that happen, but I think we're playing with Russian roulette. You know, everybody said, oh, this was a 1 in 1,000 years, and then it jumped up to 1 in 100 years. This is the 4th time now in 3 years. And so I think we have to be proactive. And what I don't understand is why we cannot engage in very serious negotiation, discussion with the railway for simply the ability of having an emergency access that would only be for emergency vehicles if in the event of a flood and a fire.
I followed up from your last comments about this some time ago when Brian Carpenter was chair, and he did, you say nothing was done, he did try to get the railroad and the state to agree to that, is what he told me, and that fundamentally the railroad doesn't want a grade crossing in the yard, even a temporary one, and how you gate it off and so forth is but the railroad has not, this is not the first time in history it's been challenging to work with the railroad, I can attest. Anyway, he did try, and I know the area that you were talking about by the old grain elevator, the south end of the Danforth complex. It looks perfectly sensible, but the state and the railroad, that's what I was told. I mean,
The railroads are almost impossible to get to do anything that's not.
And their view is that when they give up something, they'll never get it back. Like, what are they really giving up? You know, and
but this isn't a permanent
Understood.
crossing.
I know.
Understood.
What I've seen in other towns and other places is the ability sometimes of even having rubber mats.
Some staged,
Yes,
crossing material
that people
to get
can
across.
put in between the rails.
Have you seen that in Vermont anywhere?
Well, I haven't looked at Vermont.
Okay.
I have seen it like in New York State that they've done things like that, and it would allow at least the ability of getting an emergency vehicle in the event of a fire.
That's not a bad idea.
And I guess this and I understand from the railroad's perspective, they want gates, they want lights, they want horns, they want every.
When they want to put in a grade crossing, they do.
But I think if perhaps, and I'm just speaking as a taxpayer,
Sure.
maybe if there was enough pressure from the town government itself about the necessity of this for emergency purposes only, not something permanent, but something that could be put in very quickly when the underpass floods, because I drove through it Thursday. I don't know if any of you did, but I did. The water was going over the top of the curbs again on Seymour Street by Fire and Ice Restaurant. My understanding is it went into the doors of County Tire as well as also into one of the bays. It blew out at least one of the sump pumps at Fire and Ice. That came from Paris himself. I came down Methodist Lane and I have a Jeep and the water was well up it.
Sure.
So,
Yeah, and the other piece, right, is I wasn't in town on Thursday, but clearly there was a lot of wind damage. You have a real likelihood of a combination of a flooding event and other damaging events requiring emergency services in town.
oh, absolutely.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate you taking the time to hold our feet to the fire on this. We have a responsibility to be able to provide emergency services in foreseeable circumstances to all residents of this town. And I hope that you're not doing the same thing in another year or two because we haven't come up with a solution.
Can we put this on a soon agenda for us?
Yeah.
And have the chief be able to talk and try to get more information about the railway and temporary fixes and stuff like that?
Send them a
And
nasty
have a
grant.
serious conversation?
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll invite staff.
Didn't it drain off pretty quickly?
It did, but that's not that.
Well, I'm just
It
wondering,
may have been this time, yes.
and there's times where the grates are plugged or something, it would be a totally different
Fred,
situation,
I
but I
lived here my
just
entire
wonder
life.
how long
I
it
know.
took to.
But anyways,
Kevin,
could you
thanks so
please
much.
keep me in the loop?
Of course. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. Anyone else here for an item not on the consent agenda? On the agenda, sorry. Very good. Moving along. Our next item is a presentation from Alex Armani-Munn.
No.
I have the wrong agenda. Oh, I skipped a page.
Number 5.
Infrastructure Committee. Emily, what am I doing? I can't turn a page anymore. Matt, Emily, would you please come up? Do we need Matt for this? Sure, of course we need Matt for this.
Hello.
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 So,
And I'd like to welcome Izzy as well, who came in during that last bit.
few updates. The water tank, I sent you all an invite. Are
Yes.
any of you able to attend
Yes.
on Thursday? Trying? Okay, it'd be really
Come
great.
for some part of, maybe to the end, toward the end of the window.
Yeah, don't come for 3 hours. You will
No.
be bored out of your
Oh,
mind.
if
But
I have
we
my
were
lunch
to
here,
come,
I can put
I mean-
that's good to know. So
Yeah.
what's the best time to come?
I don't think there's a best time. We just chose a window that will be swinging pianos.
Great.
So
Cool.
yeah, it's impressive and it will be cool, and you'll be able to get an idea of how cool it is. And then the other note is the Middlebury Skatepark design. Our next meeting is it's going to be an online presentation this time on June 30th, starting at 6 p.m. And so we're finishing the presentation, the poster board. But once I get that, we'll post it to the website with the link for the meeting. And then other than that, the main pump station goes out to bid this week, tomorrow potentially. Well, probably more realistically, it will get posted, but it doesn't really go out to bid until next week. We're still dialing in a few things, but that one's on schedule, looking good. And then Exchange Street multi-use path opens next Monday for that sidewalk project. So that one, it had gone out to bid, and then we had to pull it and then put it back out to bid. So we extended the completion date into next year, and that's actually increased the interest for the project, which is good.
Oh, okay.
So we had another pre-bid last week, and we had, I think, five vendors there, contractors.
Great.
So, yeah.
Can I ask you, while you're here, what's your take on the storm damage that we had Thursday?
We did not really, I mean, we had some trees down. There wasn't a ton of damage, though.
There's probably half a dozen maybe locations where we had trees, branches, trees, impacting roadways. We had we had flooding here and there. It receded really quick.
There were 5 trucks across from my house on the canal on Airport Road.
Yeah.
On that afternoon, there were like 2 fire trucks that came. I don't know what happened.
Yeah.
Chief is
Power.
Trees down on lines, there were a lot of trees down on that stretch.
Could have been, yeah. We lost
Yeah.
power for a couple
Yeah.
hours, yeah.
I know that whole area and going up Munger and that part of town got hit pretty hard. It's probably, I mean, that was probably all part of the same swath with the tornado that went up a notch and hit Lincoln, so. Yeah, it was, I mean, I think it was such a short microburst of a storm. Even Seymour, the flooding, it was less than an hour, or about an hour that it totally was gone.
Yeah.
So we had a lot of concerned residents in Buttolph Acres, but I did not get any reports of actual basements flooding. It was all, sump pumps kept up with it, and it was just a lot of surface water. We met with a woman in from Gorham Lane today, same thing, not actual damage to houses, just a lot of surface flow. But I think it was, once our stormwater system was inundated, it was just percolating up to the surface, and then once.
So the Middlebury River is often flashy, is it?
I didn't go on the river gauge. I don't know what that one looked like, friend. Yeah,
It never crested.
it didn't cross. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's pretty much it for my stuff. Matt can talk to roadway crack sealing.
Crack sealing. So we put out bids for crack sealing. We had 2 bidders. We had Nikon Coatings at $9,500 a day, so we put it out for 8-hour day. And we'd like to do a week. That's what the budget will allow. Seal Coating Incorporated, which is Indus, was $12,786. Both very good companies. So we'd like to go with Nikon Coatings, $9,500 a day.
yeah, makes sense to me. Questions or comments?
I just, how do you pick which roads they do?
So there's a grading system, and we actually travel the roads, and we start with our newer roads, of course, and we put a list together, and we work off from that list and we prioritize. Once they hit a certain level, you travel roads, you probably traveled roads where it's just spider cracking all over the place, and it's gone too far. So at a certain point, it turns into a much bigger project. This is just basically, it's maintenance. It's trying to keep the water out of our roadways, freeze thaw, and it's very important.
So I just have a comment on, I live on Halpin Road, and that's been done. It's quite a mosaic that they have created in there. But I would bet that at least 30% of the material that goes on the road does not cover a crack. It's just like wand whipping.
Yeah.
If you ever, it's just, they just don't shut it off. It's just very creative.
Yeah.
But it's, I think Halpin would be gone without that by now.
Yeah.
It's important.
You can also sign these contracts to do it per ton, which you get into trouble with wand whipping in that situation.
Yeah, I bet you'd be
So this
concerned
is
about
an
that.
hourly rate.
Yeah, so they can spray all they want,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
But, yeah.
So this was went through the infrastructure committee and they recommended it favorably, so.
Right?
A good example, Dan, I don't think you were at the infrastructure, right?
No, I missed it. Michelle was
Katy
the last
Road,
one.
which the town invested a huge amount of money in 4 years ago.
Yeah.
That one is starting to crack, so that's a road that we're going to hit in this cycle because
Okay.
it'll help hold it together.
Yeah.
So it's $9,500 per day. How many days are you approximating?
We're shooting for 5
5 days.
to
maybe?
start. That works with our budget.
You do this in the rain or could you have to wait
They cannot do it in the rain, no.
5.
It's definitely weather dependent, and they won't come in the rain.
I'd move to approve the contract with Nikon Coatings LLC at a rate of $9,500 per day to carry out the roadway crack sealing for the town of Middlebury.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further questions or comments? Izzy, anything? All good. Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Yeah, looks unanimous.
Thank
Well
you.
done. Thank you.
You're gonna give us a book report on that book I gave you?
Absolutely.
Fantastic. Very good. All right. Next up, I can follow the agenda. It's the Addison County Regional Planning Commission Municipal Planning Consultation Public Hearing. Adam, welcome.
Those to pass out to everybody. Thank you for having me.
Thank
My
you
name is
for coming.
Adam Luigi. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Director of the Addison County Regional Planning Commission. I know most of you. I'm just sending around a little paper agenda, and this is really, for my purposes, it's a consultation. It's an opportunity for us to talk about planning or infrastructure or really whatever is on the town of Middlebury's mind as it relates to the Regional Planning Commission. I thought I might start you off with an update about the Addison County Regional Plan, and I also want to introduce your delegates to you, who you probably know, Melanie Sands and Phil Licken. So they're here to help me and make sure I don't lie.
Wow.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm not sure what that would mean, but yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so I thought I'd start with the regional plan. We are almost at a place where we are ready to adopt the regional plan. As you know, Act 181 basically created a pretty big kerfuffle in the planning world. This past session, it was actually amended by S325. A lot of the more controversial items dropped out. So the road rule, which was basically the land use review board jurisdiction, and tier 3, which was also being created by the land use review board. Our portion, the Regional Planning Commission's portion of that legislation, was relatively easy because we got more of the carrot for building houses than the stick, which was what the LURB was in charge of. So that section is in. We worked pretty significantly with your Planning Commission to make sure, as we were drafting our regional map, we consulted with you and every other town in Addison County to make sure that the regional land use map reflected a lot of your local priorities, where you wanted to go for development, where you didn't necessarily want to go for development. And as you build out your plan, we understand Middlebury is interested in and hope you will opt into Tier 1B, which would allow basically developers to develop up to 50 units of housing without having to go through the Act 250 process.
Right.
Our next hearing on that is July 8th. We're holding a third hearing because of S325. Basically, when they changed, that didn't pass till last week, or wasn't signed by the governor till last week or so. We took it out of we took references, we had references to Tier 3 and the road rule in the plan. We thought they were substantive changes when we had to take them out because of the change in statute. So we're holding an extra hearing. I expect we will vote sometime shortly after, either immediately after the July hearing or at our September meeting, and it depends. We don't meet in August. It depends a little bit on how the July hearing goes.
It's very civilized of you to not meet in August. I tried to do that here and did not succeed.
I recommend it.
Yeah. I'm fairly familiar with the municipal planning process. How does that interact with the regional plan? Clearly you're aligning the maps, but where does this intersect with all of the various things that happen.
Okay, so like I said previously, when we created our regional land use map, we
Right.
consulted with your planning commission.
Right.
And tried to make sure that we were incorporating basically local priorities, local land use priorities into that map.
Right.
We helped the town of Middlebury write the transportation section of your plan. We helped you with some of the utilities and facilities section of your plan. So I would tell you we consult back and forth pretty regularly. We're doing all of your local maps. Andrew, our GIS planner, just completed, I think she's completed your maps. App set is pretty close.
She's given a
Yeah.
great draft set.
Yeah.
I guess, sorry if I wasn't clear. I know that development needs to comply with the town's zoning maps that come from our plan.
Mhm.
I'm just wondering how that town plan interacts with the regional plan and where that gets incorporated in the actual process of deciding what goes where.
Okay, so I guess I would tell you we try to keep them similar and reflect one another.
Yeah.
To avoid conflicts and somebody getting caught between one and the other.
Sure.
The only two places where that might happen, where there might be a disagreement, would be in an Act 250 application or a Section 248 application, where the region and the town could have a different opinion on. If it's 248, it would be a big piece of energy infrastructure. If it were 250, it would be a relatively large development.
And so non-compliance with the regional plan matters as well as with the town plan.
Yes,
in
for
those
the
areas.
for the purposes of criteria 10, which is conformance with the town and regional plan.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Perfect.
So in the agenda notes, there's references as required by 24 VSA 4350,
Yes.
which says the Regional Planning Commission shall consult with its municipalities with respect to the municipality's planning efforts, ascertaining the municipality's needs as individual municipalities and as neighbors in a region, and identifying the assistance that ought to be provided by the Regional Planning Commission. As part of this consultation, the Regional Planning Commission, after public notice, shall review the planning process of its member municipalities at least twice during an 8-year period, or more frequently on request of the municipality, and shall confirm when the municipality is engaged in a planning process that within a reasonable time will result in a plan that's consistent with the goals in section 4302 of the statute, is engaged in a process to implement its plan consistent with the program for implementation required under section 4382, and is maintaining its efforts to provide local funds for municipal and regional planning process. We are funding you and a local planning office for sure. And then there's a consultation and there's a confirmation process. So
Yeah.
after the town plan is updated and adopted, Regional Planning Commission has to confirm that. So that's
Very
that's where
good.
this comes from.
Okay. Very good. So for a smaller town that does not have an Alicia available, how does RPC assist in their planning?
We often serve in the, so I often have a planner, and a lot of the times it's Katie, or sometimes myself will go out and basically serve as the planner to the local planning commission.
Okay.
Again, we do most of the mapping in the region.
Yeah.
So it depends on what the town needs and wants, but that's certainly a service that we offer.
So these sheets that you passed out, you have to hand these in before you can look up.
No.
Thank goodness. So
It's a they're prompts, right?
okay.
And you don't have to follow
Being
them.
put on the spot. So
That's what
I think that just looking at these categories on this sheet, you've addressed that you've been working with the Planning Commission, and you work directly with Alicia, I'm sure, on discussing of training needs or other needs of the maps particularly.
And the training could be planning commission, or it could be assessors. It could be something else if you wanted.
Well, if you can increase our grand list, we'd be much very appreciative.
That's what everybody.
Yeah. So, what goes on to say plan implementation, discuss the municipality's local permitting. You're not evaluating bylaws, discussing non-regulatory implementation.
So, for example, we've worked pretty closely with Alicia. It could be regulatory, but on the transportation-oriented development plan for Middlebury recently, that just came out, and I don't know have they seen it or not yet?
No, it has not made it to the select board.
Okay.
It's still in draft phase because nothing can really be done with it just yet.
Right, until the plan's done. Yes. But it's an interesting project that basically addresses some opportunities for planning over in towards Seymour Street. I hope you'll get a chance to look at it when you're done with the plan.
So chapter 117 enables other advisory efforts as part of like the Conservation Commission. And do you work with our Conservation Commission at all? Or?
Andrew Leroux in my office is on your Conservation Commission, so he's pretty involved with them. So I would say because of that relationship, yes, but other than Andrew, there hasn't been, someone from the Conservation Commission hasn't come and asked us, but we have done kind of regional organizations of Conservation Commissions, especially in the northern part of the county.
There's a lot of assistance you provide to the Energy Committee.
Yes, Jolene is working directly with your Energy Committee on the energy section of the regional plan. Or excuse me, of the town plan, pardon me. Let's see, I wrote down a couple other things. We are one of the administrators for the Northern Borders Regional Commission. If you are seeking that money, you could work with Alex, our money mun, or you could work with us. And I know that I'm on the committee that reviews the priority projects, so I know you have basically water and wastewater projects in the works there.
Indeed we do.
Other things, we've done a lot of brownfields work within the town of Middlebury. I'm hoping that we will get another assessment grant and have that available to you. I'm pretty confident we will. Energy planning, municipal planning grants, mapping, GIS, or some of the other services that we offer. I know Mark's been interested in, a regional organization for town administrators and such, and we would love to be involved with that effort with you. So please use us as a resource for that.
The VLCT meeting that you hosted last year for select board members in the region was great. Having more opportunities to get that group together, I think would be wonderful. It was really neat because we have very little opportunity to meet outside of town fair, which is statewide and not, it's a tougher situation to meet your nearby colleagues.
We'll host another one of those this
That'd
year.
be great.
All right.
Yeah.
Good.
Is there anything that our delegates want to add to this?
If you do, please come up to a microphone. I've been instructed by Drew that it really helps for the recording and the folks at home.
There's another chair over
We
there.
can take that, yeah.
Do you want to come?
There's a mic there.
I was just going to add on to what Adam said. I sit on the local government committee to your question earlier,
Yeah.
Andy. So we have to coordinate on each of those plans and then approve of them. Otherwise, they can't get certain approvals at the state level.
Okay.
In order to be able to go forward, like I believe 1B, you can't get without a town plan.
Correct.
So we have to approve it and then it goes through. So I've been part of 2 of those now. And I've watched the process of the towns not just interact with us, but they use our plan to clearly segment, come up with sections, things they haven't thought of. Because ours, I always look at ours as sort of a broader, higher level perspective of the same thing they're trying to accomplish.
Sure.
And they seem to have appreciated that.
Yeah.
So it is
A helpful
worked out
template
well.
for the smaller municipality doing their
Yes.
planning process.
And I
Exactly.
know you and Melanie reached out to select board members and
Yes, sir.
had individual meetings with them, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So thank you for that. It's
Yeah,
important
that's
to
very useful.
make it.
We've learned a lot from you guys, so trust me, that's not a one-way street. We probably learned more from you than anything. It's been a very useful process.
Yeah, and I think that's what I was gonna add in terms of the last main item of how can ACRPC help? I think I just wanna encourage the communication to keep flowing back and forth. So as you guys think of ways we can help or question ways we might be able to help, continuing those conversations. I know Adam listed a number of things that we're already doing, but I think there's also opportunities to consider what else could we be doing. So just, really appreciate everyone taking time to speak with us and wanting to continue those conversations. So I'm hoping this is more of continuing the conversation rather than just, and then we talked about it today. So just wanted to offer that.
Yeah. From my vantage and experience, the RPC is the closest thing we have to county government in the state.
Yes, sir.
The sheriff and the courts are not really places for the communities to get together and decide much. They just send us a bill. And so as we look at coordinating services and trying to figure out how to get some economies of scale in Addison County, I think RPC's got an important role there.
We brought that up at the last meeting. We were
Fantastic.
Melanie and I
You're
went to the
channeling
meeting
me.
to say, hey, we're meeting with all our select board members. We wanted you to know that. One of the things we're hearing loud and clear is if you guys have stuff you want to do as a group as opposed to on your own, please bring that to us.
Yeah, great.
Because there's clearly opportunities. I couldn't begin to tell you what they are. You guys know better than me, but it just struck me that was needed.
Yeah.
So are our delegates gonna vote to support the regional plan?
My expectation. I mean, having been involved in the drafting of certain parts of it, I've not heard any real controversy over it. So I'm guessing we're going to be good in July. Am I speaking out of turn?
Well, you're the one who gets to vote, so I hope so.
Fair point. But yes, I can't imagine that we were pretty ready, to Adam's point earlier, we were pretty ready in June, but they changed the rules. So we couldn't have things in there commenting on 3 or the road rule or things like that. That would have been highly inappropriate. So I was very pleased to see Adam take the chance to redo it, because that would have been awkward.
Sure.
And
At
good
best.
that your hearings have been going well and that,
Yeah, we haven't received a ton of comment. I don't know if you've been
Thank
through
you
this
for your
before,
comments.
but
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
I mean,
There haven't been a lot of comments.
no, we got sort of some of the typical political comments you get in a situation like this about 250. We got some that were pointed about the document and some things that people suggested, and we listened to a bunch of them. And some of them were just sort of general comments that either did or did not make their way in, depending on what they were about.
thank you.
Great. Thank you all for having us this evening. Appreciate it.
Oh, thank you.
Good.
Cheers.
Thank you for joining me.
Sure, that was the easy part.
All right, and now, having properly turned the page, the next item on our agenda is the ACEDC CHIP program application process with Alex.
He's joining right now.
I'm sure he is. Blah, 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 blah. It's a chewy mouthful. It's all coming together. Just enough time to take a bite of that. Juicy.
On the camera.
There it is.
Dinner before you come. You never do, though.
I apologize. It
No
took
worries.
a moment for. Okay, so you can hear me okay?
Sounds great.
Great. Well, Select Board members, thank you so much for allowing me to speak tonight. I'm excited to be back to provide a quick update on CHIP and an overview of next steps in the role that you all will play. So as folks are likely aware, ACEDC is actively working with the town on 2 CHIP applications, one for Stonecrop Meadows and one for the Middle Apartments. So per BEPC requirements, both of these applications will have to come before the select board for a public hearing for approval by the select board prior to submission to BEPC. Before we get to those public hearings, a step that I really highly recommend as best practice, though it's not a BEPC requirement, is an application workshop wherein members of town staff, the developers, and I'm recommending 2 select board members will participate in a workshop to really review these applications in great detail, scrutinize all the elements, ask questions, get familiar not just with the application process, but with the administrative process of CHIP as well. And this really, again, in my mind, is critical to ensure that the select board is actively participating in the application process. The last thing I want is for the public hearing to be the first occasion when members of the select board are seeing these applications. So we've not scheduled these workshops yet. I am recommending that each application gets its own workshop. I have been speaking with David and Mark about the structure of these workshops and the timing. I'm recommending up to 3 hours. Again, I want to make sure that town staff, especially as well as select board representatives, have plenty of time to really sit down and ask all their questions related to these applications. And just for context, I'll remind folks that, in this CHIP application process, you're basically determining the use of future property tax revenues for up to 20 years. So certainly not any decisions that would want to be taken lightly. And that's where I think having up to 3 hours allows for time for thorough review. The other thing I'll add was Stonefront Meadows. Speaking with Zeke and his team, I know that they would like, they're hoping to do a public hearing as soon as July 28th, I believe it is, the second select board meeting in July, which would require a workshop no later than July 10th. Per BEPC requirements, the notice of public hearing does have to be posted at least 15 days in advance, which we put it to July 13th. So I will, after this meeting, be working with Mark and David to schedule a workshop for Stonefront Meadows, ideally for July 10th, which would keep us on pace for that July 28th public hearing. What I'm asking for tonight is to appoint 2 representatives to participate in that workshop. The middle departments I expect to come forward in August. Again, probably looking to do a public hearing at the second select board meeting in August. So hopefully doing a workshop in early in August to allow for adequate posting public hearing. So that's a very succinct kind of overview of where we're at in the process right now and what our next steps look like. Certainly I'd be happy to answer any questions folks have about those workshops or the public hearing or the application in general. Though again, I will just remind folks that we'll really get to the weeds of everything at those workshops.
3 hours certainly allows for a lot of weeds. We did, as a body, designate the town manager and the chair of the select board as the CHIP somethings.
Chips.
The CHIPs at a prior meeting, and there was also interest in several other select board members in attending without being the designated CHIPs. Should we do more than that at this point, Alex?
So I've recommended, consultation with Mark to have up to 2 select board representatives. The reason we limited to 2 is so that the select board can participate in those private workshops without violating the open meeting laws. Again, there's no requirement that 2 folks participate. I frankly though, I believe having 2 folks at the table certainly helps. Again, we want to, I think, get as much participation from select board as possible. So my recommendation would be to have 2 select board members participate. Even folks who might not feel like they have the in-depth knowledge of the program or of TIP as a tool, I'm certainly happy to meet with. And the other thing I'll say is, I think appointing these 2 folks allows those folks to really take on the role of, over time, not in the near term, but over time, becoming CHIP experts and being able to bring that perspective to the board for future applications and future discussions. And certainly I think Mark and David do a great job. You guys have a great staff, but I think bringing select board directly to the table just makes it a more robust and inclusive process. So that's my recommendation, but again, it's totally discretion of the board.
I'm not an open meeting expert, but I have played one on TV. Is the concern that it would need to be a warned meeting of the select board if we had 4 or more members there and we were discussing the outcome or how we would, what our perspective was on a given applicant?
Yeah, I would probably have to defer to Mark and David here for more specifics, but what I would say is, there wouldn't necessarily be any formal decisions made in these workshops, but once you're gathering, I think more than 2 or more than 3 select board members, then yes, it does have to become a publicly noticed meeting. And of course, open to the public, and there will be a lot of private information discussed as far as project financials and things of that nature, just in order to keep the meetings operated in an orderly and efficient way. Again, want to just limit the number of folks at the table just to those critical stakeholders, both from staff and select board. So that is some of the reasons again why we look to limit the number of select board members and keep those meetings private.
Isn't our interest in this as a town, whether our grand list can possibly accommodate this, and the idea that the grand list would grow and you could use the revenues to help finance this? I mean, the other financial issues that a developer has, is that really our business? Or are we just trying to figure out whether this can be afforded from the town?
Yes, so again, to the extent that you're making public revenue available to support this infrastructure development, and again, some dynamic is really critical, and the reason why select board plays such an important role. We're talking.
Well, I certainly the manager and VEPSI, and they have to prove the but-for clause. Is that what it's called? But-for. They have to show that this is needed. But this project wouldn't happen but-for this. Chip, is that right?
The but-for test applies to projects that either are market rate or above. So if it's an affordable or required.
Okay.
Yes, Farhan.
Yeah, just a clarifying question. Was there a meeting, maybe I was not there, that we have appointed you and Mark on this? Because I heard that by default, we had no choice, the select board chair and the manager was supposed to be on it.
It was the recommended
By
some state agency.
Yeah, the Agency of Commerce and Community Development. They've got their project guide.
Alex, correct me if I'm wrong. I think in our follow-up conversation, the sections of state regulations they were referring to, that doesn't relate to what this workshop you're describing, right?
Correct, yeah. So I can see, certainly may have been a recommendation by ACCD or perhaps for one of the cities and towns who's been active in providing technical assistance. But again, there's no strict state requirements on, the number of folks who participate.
For the town's part, we need to know the status of our grand list.
Of course.
How much has it grown, and pretty soon, and is it in July we set the tax rate? When is there a schedule for doing that?
That's a good question. I don't know the answer to that.
Well, we need to have some information, that my experience is we need all of the grand list growth we can to keep up with inflation. We don't have any extra, and we have major projects to finance as well. And typically the grand list growth is growing at a much slower percentage rate than our costs.
Sure.
Buying trucks and buying infrastructure. And so, the notion that we're gonna have some extra, even with some, we need whatever new development provides to keep up with inflation.
Well,
but we need to have some numbers and projections on that to really,
right,
before we're really prepared to
sure,
go forward, don't we?
I definitely think so. I think that's what the purpose of this is to, get some members up to speed on the internals of these projects and have, a better informed conversation with the
So
full
on the
select board.
clarification, to your point, we appoint a couple, but anybody else can join and.
Well, there's a concern that if we have more than 3 select board members, we have an open meeting because we are talking about town business in a way that the select board has a decision-making interest in it, right?
Alex is not comfortable with that.
Well, I think that we shouldn't be comfortable with that, since this is going to come to us as work and we could be discussing it in a quorum quantity if there were 4 of us in this meeting.
For my part, I'm away on July 28th. I think we were talking about not meeting that night, but and the other thing is I'm on too many committees. So
I see. Well, I think that we should look at 3 people who are interested in attending and have them as the folks that we are expecting to have at this workshop. And if they can't make it,
I'm definitely interested in attending that.
Right.
You are?
Yes.
Great. You got 3 hours in the middle of the day?
13 hours I have.
13 hours in the day. Perfect. It's going to be you're going to be the chip master. We're going to call you.
And I haven't seen Alex in a while, so that'll give me an idea.
Fantastic.
Yeah, we're due to catch up.
All right. A third select board member who's interested in 3 hours of chip.
I would love to be a part of the group.
There it is.
Perfect.
All right. I think that's enough, Alex.
I wanted to be, but I'm not gonna, I can't overcome that enthusiasm, so.
Yeah.
Go for it.
You know, we had such great work on the charter. You know, I think that just goes to show that we can handle this project.
Very good.
no, this requires money. You're talking a different.
Yeah. You say Constitution is easier to draw up than a budget?
It's easier than raising taxes.
All right. Anyway, Alex, do you need more than that?
No, I think we're all set there. And again, just to recap, I will be following up with Mark and David probably as soon as tomorrow to get something on the calendar. And again, we'll be looking to do something before July 10th. I will probably shoot for somewhere in the July 6th to 9th window, because what that does is allow us time to pull together all the application materials, all the financial analysis, and distribute it to folks who will be participating in the workshop ahead of time. So again, they have time to review. So hopefully as early as next week, we'll be sending out, again, that draft application.
July is next week?
Yeah.
What's going on? How is time moving so quickly?
If it's a workshop?
I will be in touch again with Mark and David. We'll get that on the calendar. We'll get materials out to folks. And I will look forward to seeing the full board in late July.
And I'm going to say to myself, Izzy and Farhad, that if we cannot make the time that is set up, to advertise that to other board members if they're interested.
Sure, we'll have Dan as a backup.
Or potentially Megan, who may be back from Germany. Yeah, I think we'll. We should be able to get 3 people.
So if it's a workshop, that's not a meeting.
Well, if it's a workshop on an item that's going to come to us for a decision,
Okay.
I'm concerned that having 4 people able to discuss
you're
outside of a
guaranteed to
public
go.
meeting, outside of a warned, open public meeting.
Okay, so we couldn't, 4 of us couldn't go to a VLCT workshop.
We can, because it's not a decision that's going to come to us.
If you're
coming
I
together-
was just trying to push it as far as I could.
You got it.
Make a movement?
We do not.
Oh.
Well, we've just picked some
Select board
people.
Chair appoints.
Well, sure.
Yes.
I just asked for volunteers. I didn't. There's no point.
But they get appointed by you.
Okay. All right.
We got that.
Trying to give me all this power. All right. That was great. Moving on, we now have the Town of Middlebury Addison Central School District Recreation Park Lease Renewal and Skate Park Joint Sponsorship Agreement. Whoa, another mouthful. Mark, what are we looking at?
So included in your packet for this evening was
yes, it was
a 1-year lease, a draft 1-year lease between the Addison County School District and the town for the rec park parcel near the Mary Hogan School. Should have been in one scan, both documents. The joint sponsorship agreement that's included with that, both documents were reviewed by town and district attorneys, and they were approved by the Addison County School District Board at a recent meeting. I think it was early June 8th. A little background, our 25-year term with the district from 1995 expired in 2020.
Right.
And a one-year renewal was signed at that time, but that then expired in 2021. It was likely a COVID casualty, I'm guessing. But fast forward to 2026, the Skatepark is eligible for some grant funding, a sizable grant, and before anybody asks how much, that information will be released once they secure that funding from the Land Water Conservation Fund. But as part of that award, they require a 25-year lease for the property.
Oh, interesting.
So that's why you're seeing this joint sponsorship agreement at the tail end of a one-year lease. The state is comfortable with that arrangement. The one-year lease, well, it's actually a 1 to 3 year lease because the district can approve up to 36 months. Coupled with that joint agreement, since a long-term lease not only takes time to negotiate, but it requires a district-wide vote, so we can't rush that. It's still our hope to continue conversations with the school district about a land transfer. That's not off the table, at least as far as I'm concerned. But for now, we don't want to jeopardize this grant funding. So
the reason we're acting now on a defunct lease agreement that's been idle for 5 years is because we need something in place for this conservation grant, which will help fund the skatepark.
Correct.
Perfect. It all makes sense.
Has any of the terms changed in this new lease, or is it the same as before?
Yeah, some terms have changed. I don't know specifically which ones, but there was quite a bit of
Fred does.
Yeah,
there's quite a bit of back and forth.
The 1995 agreement actually had similar successive periods, but if you add all the successive periods up, I went 97 years. This one only goes 52.
Right, but we didn't exercise those.
I know, it's like, I guess we didn't have a calendar to remind people that 2020, let's...
I don't remember the specifics, but in 2020 when we re-signed that one-year thing, Nick Arden, he had some substantial comments on it, and he highly recommended we go only for 1 year so we can revisit it.
And then you didn't.
No, then nobody did.
Okay.
You'll have another opportunity.
Yeah.
Of course, for a long-term lease.
Okay. So this is
And
not
the
25 years?
No, this is a 1 year.
The long-term lease is just being delayed because we have to have it voted on by.
You would need a district vote whether they were deeding the land to us or having a long-term lease.
Right, and we don't want to do that vote for another couple of years. Is that what it?
They don't apparently.
They don't want it?
We do want to do that. It will just take more time than we have. We only have until the end of this month to get.
Got it. But aren't we doing this again next year? Isn't it planned? Did I read correctly?
Or we can do it before that, right?
I guess the concern, honestly, is school districts are going through change, so we hear the state.
Not enough.
And if our district is suddenly housed in Chittenden County, and we're a sub-district or something, then right now this started with the ID4 district, which was the same taxpayers as the town of Middlebury.
Right.
And so it was a comfortable vote first time around on the long-term lease. If we had extended this, we wouldn't have to vote again. I wouldn't think, because I think the Addison Central District, when it acquired it, would have acquired it subject to a lease. And I don't know why they want to lease it, and what their interest is in owning the land under the swimming pool and the ice rink, and maybe they want to be named also if there's ever a lawsuit. I don't know. It's just a mystery to me why they would want to own that. I noticed there was a survey done of the of this, to update the meets and bounds description from 1995. Is it the same territory, or we add on something for the skate park? Or?
It's this, I can pass this down. This is a copy of the current version. It is the same.
Emily, you had a comment?
Their concern, Fred, is that if it becomes a regionalized school, they would potentially have to build a larger establishment and would need the parcel of land where the soccer fields and that complex are now to build the new school.
Sure.
To keep the other school active while building a new school, and then they would swap the fields to the other side.
Okay.
Well, if it's useful in the archives, there was this long-range building study for Mary Hogan School, and back when the enrollment was growing, they actually had a plan for where they would put additional buildings that would not invade that territory. If that would be helpful to you, to argue that they don't need to worry about that.
As I read the agreement a few hours ago, the school district holds the insurance.
We both do.
You both do?
Right.
Okay. They hold it for their events, we hold it for everything but their events.
Correct.
We pay them $10 a year, and we have to give priority to their use of the facilities other than the tennis court and the ice rink.
During school hours.
During school hours. Boy.
It's still our to continue the conversation about a land transfer.
Yep.
We just don't have time for that
Okay.
conversation now. But I agree with everything you're saying. That is the direction I would like to see us heading into.
Only makes sense, right? It's all town improvements. It's all town maintenance. It's all, yeah.
Even if the conversation is carving out,
Sure.
back to Emily's point,
Yeah.
that portion of the field.
Right. Take the soccer field.
That was
Sure.
part of the reason why we kept the skate park design
Mhm.
tucked off to the side behind the pool so that that area
Right.
would still be available.
Yeah. Very good.
So the only difference in this is that the lease part includes the parking lot, where now it's not. It does not. It goes along the edge of the roadway, and having a parking lot for a rec park is a useful thing. It's too bad.
Are they going to prevent townspeople from using their parking lot?
I don't know. I don't.
Well, we
Most of the events happen
own
on
one of the
spots.
parking lots over there. We own the larger parking lot.
The
Backside.
The one on the town land behind is what you're talking about, the larger one. I think there really is, what's happening is they really want to control what's going on. There's the language in here that, if there were events that somehow happened in the pool or the ice rink or the teen center that affected them in some adverse way, they would have control. It's very interesting that they agreed to the skate park without any control over that, like the other facilities I just mentioned. I just find, I don't think we want to invite them to require us to police that. Anyway, I share the hope that there could be a deed, and if the building study that showed that there was room for additions would be useful in your negotiations, happy to. These are just extra copies I pulled out of the archives when we started talking about this a year ago.
Yeah, and we've had conversations about housekeeping. If a land transfer ever does take place, that property line between, or that bisects the hockey rink, we could clean that up, combine those two parcels. So this would be the first.
They're not going to build a school addition on the pool, are they? We could maybe come around the pool too on that.
I don't know what their plans are, but I don't think so.
Okay. Well.
Well, what we have before us is a one-year lease, which is necessary to be eligible for this grant funding for the skate park. And while it's not a perfect solution, we should probably act on it.
They've signed it, so.
So we're going to talk about the joint sponsorship agreement, or
Sure.
is that separate?
Go ahead. It's a separate motion, but we can.
We want to do the first one. I'm sorry. I didn't
That's fine.
look at the motions.
No, no, no. Let me see.
That's the one we really need for the skate park funding.
What's that?
That's the one that we really need for the skate park funding.
Okay.
The joint sponsorship agreement.
Do we wanna do the lease, or do we wanna talk about the
Do the
joint
lease.
thing
Do the
first?
The lease first.
Yeah.
I'll move to approve the proposed one-year lease renewal agreement between the town of Middlebury and the Addison County Central School District relating to Red Park.
Moved and seconded. Any further questions or comments? All in favor, please indicate.
Aye.
There we go, we got Izzy too.
Thank you.
6 in. Right, the joint agreement that I didn't even notice the first time I read through it, because there were so many pages at the end of the first bit.
So I have I think there are questions about the joint agreement.
Yep.
The joint agreement basically sounds like when this is signed, we're taking over everything. It talks about the project development. We're gonna be responsible for all the project development, permits, building, construction management. So the town shall be responsible for securing funding for the skate park project, including grants, donations, appropriations, sponsorships, and other funding. And further down, it talks about ownership, and the town is going to be responsible for any expenses in keeping it all up. So that means once this is signed, then we as a town are going to have to do all the funding. In other words, they've been doing funding, and we've given them, what, $20,000 a year or something like that?
When you say they, you mean the
I mean, the
Middlebury
skate
Skate Park
project.
Group.
The skate park group, which is
So-
a separate entity than the ACSD, who's not been involved in this at all.
Correct. So the skate park group is still very much involved in the project, but the town was the applicant for the funding.
Yes.
And so we are required to show the support, and because we'll be the easement holder.
So
Right.
we'll
Of the
be the
property.
applicant, but we're not responsible to raise. our-
Yeah, I mean, I'm already doing the project management part
Yes,
of
I
it.
know that.
But the fundraising will still be on the Middlebury
Okay,
Skate
but
Park.
we are responsible for funding it no matter what it takes to
Well,
fund
We
it.
are not responsible for funding it no matter what it takes.
Okay.
They will not give us the funding if the 25-year easement
Yep,
isn't signed
yep,
in
got that.
advance. And if we are not able to match the funding, we won't.
I think under 5B, if we could say that,
5B, the town shall be responsible for securing funding for the skate park project, including grants, donations, appropriations, sponsorships, and other funding sources.
yeah, like our grant list. So I think we can, if the grant is awarded, agree to match it.
Yeah, but
What?
That would be a different thing than being required to come up with other funding sources for the whole project.
But
We're
why
we are required to match the grant,
we are required to match.
We,
but it does not have
How
to be
big's the
town
grant?
funding. I think it was 562,000, if I remember. It's somewhere in that ballpark, and so
what's the
it's a
town share?
50% match.
50% of, so 250,000.
okay, is part of that 250, we have 250,000.
No, we don't.
Is.
That's why we need to do some
can-
fundraising.
Fundraising can be part of that match,
Absolutely, it can be 100% of it.
okay?
That's the intention.
I'm just, I know, basically, if I read over this, this says, we as a town are gonna do everything, including pay for it, build it, maintain it, and do everything. ACSD is pretty much out of it, and we've got the other entity, which has been a fabulous entity, working very hard to get this done. But they could just kind of wash their hands and say,
this
No,
doesn't,
you're doing-
this doesn't say it's going to happen. This says that
No.
if it happens this way.
no, it sounds like it says it's going to happen this way. If it's gonna happen.
5B.
If it's going to happen.
Doesn't have,
Correct.
Well, we certainly want to make it
So
happen.
we,
Sure.
the way the grant language is written, I believe it has to be in construction by 2028 for us to keep the funding.
Okay.
We are not going to construction if we don't have an adequate match to
Right.
support the construction,
Yeah.
Right.
so
period.
we're gonna need to go to the voters with funding for part of this at some point, right?
Maybe.
Maybe, or maybe we'll fundraise.
Well, maybe,
No, we're
if
getting
we
The-
get grant, get
from there.
$250,000 of the donations, we don't do it.
The intent is to get to the project to a level of design that people get excited about it and they can market it and fundraise for it adequately.
Yes, that's the kind of things that work. It just, there's a lot in there. And a lot in there is.
I just
you
think
as
on
a town and the
5B,
staff
I
are
want to
gonna
say
be
if the project proceeds, the town would be responsible for managing the funding and whatever. But
There's nothing in here that implies that the project will succeed. It's just if it will, this is the framework under which that happens.
where does it say that?
There's nothing in here that says that you're going to build
We've
it.
already done a lot of fundraising, right?
We haven't done any the town has not done any fundraising. The Middlebury Skatepark group has earned, I don't know their current total. They had earned maybe 50 or 75,000 total, and they had secured some donations like concrete at a reduced rate, things like that. So
Is that
in 5B we
towards
can
the amount
agree to
that they need to?
some of it went towards design, some
Nothing
of
more.
it is towards construction.
Yeah.
Which would that count towards the match?
So even
The
once we
match is
build
all
it,
construction.
the town shall be operate and maintain the skate park. The town shall be responsible for routine maintenance, repairs, inspections, cleaning, and replacement of damaged skate park equipment and improvements. The town shall establish and enforce reasonable operating rules for the skate park. So, as we know, having when we build things like this, we have to have some idea of an ability to be able to fund and run these things. Is this hiring a new employee to sit by the skate park and make sure it works, or is this fees to use it, or
We can't charge a fee to use it.
So,
There's no fee to use it.
yeah, I know that. I was just being
Pedantic.
yes.
Well-
What? That's a good word. You'll have to tell me what it means.
He's right.
So I went to a trade school, so. I'm being a protagonist on this. I mean, it's it's all of a sudden falling on the town right now. If you're prepared and we're prepared, and I guess if we have $750,000, we'll be prepared.
Right.
I think
and
it fell
it's
on the
their
town when
land.
we applied for the grant as the applicant.
Right.
Yeah.
It's their land. They're saying, here you can do this project on our land during this lease.
Yes.
Okay.
So does 6B, 6A, rather,
Yep.
sufficiently say that we can only do this
Right.
if we
Sufficient
get the
funding,
required government approvals like town meeting?
like town meeting, like a bond vote if you're going to have
Okay.
such a thing,
All
like
right,
any
all
of that.
All right.
Well,
And
I don't know, to me, in what you're looking at, the most concerning is upkeep and maintenance.
it's gonna cost us
Of course.
And
$40,000-$50,000
I'm
a
wondering
year
if
to
there's
maintain
any,
it,
yeah.
keep operating stuff.
Not that it shouldn't happen, I just
Sure.
think it's something.
And to clear it up, I'm in whole support of doing this. I think this is a great project. I think we should do it. And I just think we need to be thinking about building things and maintaining things.
Oh, you really did read that book.
I did read that book.
So I just hope the minutes are clear that, we want to do this
Yes.
out of optimism, to support the park and support the grant. We recognize there's a long way to go for the private fundraising, that the town can't afford to do this all ourselves. We want to do this to inspire the donations. And we don't have a dollar amount we know of, we haven't seen the plans yet. So just the minutes understand that this is out of total optimism and faith.
Okay. I expect the minutes will pick that up, Fred. Any other discussion on this joint agreement between the leaseor and leasee? All right, I'd entertain a motion. A most entertaining motion.
Skipping to the second one?
Yeah, we did the first one, didn't we?
Yep, we did.
the proposed joint sponsorship agreement between the town of Middlebury and ACSD relating to the planned Middlebury State Skatepark.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any last minute questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor, please indicate. Aye.
Aye.
Farhan, I didn't hear you.
Aye. I think I said that.
Okay. I got us all on the record. And now the pièce de résistance. The Middlebury Design Advisory Committee background and discussion featuring our Director of Planning and Development, Alicia Bartlett. Come on down. You're the next contestant on Tuesday Night Hijinks.
Just cleared the room of people though.
I know, it's such a popular.
They're not gonna stay here to support you, so.
So this has clearly been a long time coming. We discussed this briefly around town meeting and the new formation of the board and appointments about that this particular committee had not been active for a while, and is it something that we wanted to revitalize, or should we think about the aesthetic controls in our development process differently? And we had hoped that we would have gotten to this sooner, but March has turned into late June, and we are now here. So I'm excited that it's happening. I'm excited that you're here and well situated in our fine town, and interested in your thoughts on design advisory and where that fits in the town processes.
Sure. Thank you for having me,
Of
first
course.
off, and thank you for the prelude. So I guess where I would start is my understandings when I was hired, actually starting with the interview process for this position, and getting acquainted with the town priorities and essentially the changing of the guard. It seems that there has been a bit of internal turnover, especially with upper management, and with that turnover, many people with long tenures have left, and we have new people in, and a slight shift of priorities or elevation of priorities is my understanding, to try and better the town's reputation, their outward projection, be a little bit more welcoming and customer friendly, especially to applicants in my department that come into my department for review processes. And then we've heard several times tonight, but a resounding call for how to grow the tax base, the grand list, but essentially the tax base because of inflation and all of our other town priorities. So those are my understandings coming into this position from the overall town perspective. And then, as you all know, when I first started, I was handed the opportunity to finish the town plan, and in that process and pumping the brakes on the drafting of the town plan, we kind of did an about face to open up to greater community engagement, a little greater, as time would allow. So we conducted a community-wide survey and a set of stakeholder discussions, and also in the process of coming up to speed and moving that town planning process forward, a review of past planning efforts, right? Which one of the efforts was the 2017 town plan that has a series of incomplete actions, but nothing against anybody's effort to complete the associated actions. So with all of that, I worked with the Planning Commission to develop a draft vision, set of goals and priorities, informed by all of those steps. And the leading priorities that came out of that, that fed the vision, were to maintain the community character, which we had a lot of discussion about character and how you might define that, or how you can't define it. And then affordability, and how to get more housing, create opportunities for more housing, because as many other conversations have gone, we don't have enough housing to meet the demand in Middlebury. And with the same reasons for the desire to grow the grand list, there's the same outward community-wide desire to have this community be more affordable for the people who live and work here, and those who want to live and work here and move to town. So taking those leading priorities between the town government and then the planning process, and then my background in planning and review of our current documents, the zoning and subdivision ordinance, the expired town plan, the 2017 town plan, and then reviewing the boards that we have and hearing additional feedback through our hallways in all of these various meetings. There appears to be a bit of a disconnect. And I don't feel that disconnect is any one entity's fault or from the lack of effort necessarily, but times change and revisions should happen.
Sure. I'm interested in this. I expect you're going to explain
Get
the
to the
disconnect
point.
more. Yeah, no.
So basically, I think, looking at the composition of the DAC, I haven't looked into the full history of it. I do understand it's been in existence for about 36 years. I am in full support of design guidelines. However, there has been dwindling, it appears dwindling membership to the DAC. And also, the more boards that an application is sent to for review extends the review timeframe inherently. And when you extend the timeframe, it decreases predictability and can increase cost for that application, and becomes an inherent kind of, it dissuades people, can dissuade people who are not savvy with these types of processes. The layman, for instance, who also might not be able to afford to hire their own consultant, it would dissuade them to want to enter into a process, and potentially increase costs. Probably not exponentially, but incrementally.
Very few things actually are exponential. It's a word that's thrown around a lot, and yeah. Okay, good.
Overused.
Yeah, perhaps.
We can scratch that
Yeah.
from the minutes. I mean, we
We
can
said it
ask
wasn't.
them.
It's double-digit tax increases.
Yeah, I mean, it's not exponential unless it's
Those are-
actually greater than the sum of all prior. Okay,
Yeah.
anyway.
So just spoiler alert, I do not have a silver bullet to provide you all tonight. As with anything planning, I do feel that this should be, a greater public effort to discuss and try to assist in refining a public process. But what I'm seeing issues with the efficiency in our review processes. It would be nice, and with that, I see reduced predictability on the applicant's side of things. And we have some incongruencies, unfortunately, in the 2022 zoning ordinance and zoning and subdivision ordinance that should be corrected, that can help increase predictability and readability, usability of that ordinance. And also increasing refinement of that ordinance can help with transparency. But overall, I do, for this topic specifically, I see an absence of good design guidelines. We have a lot of references and support built into the ordinance for design. We have a list of 7 to 10 reference documents that the DAC should use when conducting their reviews. That just getting up to speed on those, which many of those are out of date. They date back to the 70s. And I was scratching my head today wondering why those got carried forward into a 2022 ordinance.
Sure.
And wanted and actually went on a quest to find them.
I wonder if they hadn't disappeared.
Yeah.
Or last 3 town planners.
But it you know, as any process or review through time, without appropriate review and refinement to really bring it up to modern standards, it can become broken and kind of defective. So I would really think, and this is not a conversation that's just happening in Middlebury.
Sure.
This is a conversation that's happening across the US for any planning body that wants to be modern.
Sure.
And better serve the public efficiently, while striking a balance with their standards. So I think, you know, first off would be identifying the neighborhoods and the character of the neighborhoods in as objective of terms as possible, and calling out the key characteristics for scale and standards that are desired by the community as a whole, and then trying to further communicate those standards through graphics and discussion of colors and materials, and vegetation, landscaping, etc., that is in alignment with the town's kind of standards,
Sure.
essentially.
This feels like the neighborhood design that we did.
Yes.
Okay.
It's very similar. So we have been working towards this through time,
Okay.
and it just takes, it's a big nut to crack. I guess it's a big lift. So the neighborhood design, the TND section of the code, aligns with smart
TND.
Traditional neighborhood design is a planning
Thank
jargon.
Thank you.
And we have, so in the last iteration of the zoning update, the zoning ordinance update, the PUD, planned unit development section was almost eliminated. No new planned unit developments under our current ordinance would be allowable unless they go through a T&D review and
Interesting.
align with that criteria. And so that criteria aligns with smart growth standards, which are design driven. So we've been moving towards that direction, but the entire ordinance does not have a set of comprehensive guidelines. And then we've also, as we heard a little bit earlier today, we've gone through a transportation-oriented development planning process for an area identified over by the train station. And we have draft regulations on that the Planning Commission has heard. They've just not been moved up to the select board because we have to adopt a town plan before we can do anything with the zoning.
Right.
It's the pesky process.
Your predecessor bought an external transport-oriented, whatever, a document and some images to us. Okay. I assume this is a growth from that?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, it's further development of that project.
Perfect.
Yeah. So, and that is, that TOD for short is a form-based code. Right. And versus Euclidean. Euclidean is a classic zoning code that is just kind of, it works with dimensional standards, and form-based code is taking those standards and kind of fitting them to the property like a glove. So it's more design driven instead of, it's form over function instead of function over form or function.
Interesting.
Taking the reins.
Yeah.
And running rampant. So we have been moving in that direction, but I would propose, we can't make any changes right now to the ordinance, and I wouldn't recommend trying to while we're this far along with our town planning process. I think it's good to focus our efforts as we're moving forward, but targeting the opportunity to do a more holistic update with an eye to design guidelines in the zoning ordinance and refinement of the ordinance to get rid of, try and reduce inconsistencies.
I see Fred nodding, that's probably a good thing.
I didn't pay him either. So, and with all of this, maintaining a certain level of flexibility. That's why I keep saying guidelines instead of standards. Standards are strict, guidelines are kind of shoulds, and a little bit more of a negotiation, and allowance for some exceptions.
This all makes sense to me. It sounds very similar to like a homeowners association type, but I like.
Those are horrible. They're worse than
I know, but
if they're not done
well, right, and the flexibility, I think, that's where that comes in.
Yeah.
So, who would be responsible
for doing all of this?
Mm-hmm.
It should fall to the planning and zoning department to oversee, and planning commission, I would see having a role to guide this. When I say oversee the process, but I would highly advocate and request that we set some money aside, and I'll work to seek funding as well, to be able to hire a consultant who can provide almost their undivided attention to this, because it's detailed work, highly detailed work, that, you know, you can multitask it, but it will take a long time to get it accomplished. If it becomes part of my full-time job to do, and it's more difficult to ensure that it's void of mistakes.
There must be other towns in the state, like
Oh,
Stowe
yeah.
or something that
Have
Brattleboro
done
is
this.
a great example. You go to Brattleboro's zoning and look at the, I don't interrupt, but this is a form base. It's got a picture. It's got pretty simple but clear guidelines that aren't completely totally predictable, but require community context, which I can read for 3 sentences until I give you a picture of it. Following standards apply to development in this district. This is the residential district that require a major site plan approval. So typically individual projects like house additions, so it doesn't necessarily go through a more involved process. Principal buildings must be residential in character and compatible with the form and scale of buildings typical in the neighborhood. That's not totally predictable language, I gotta tell you. People can disagree as to what character is. Building facades must be composed of bays that incorporate visible changes in the facade elevations through the use of wall plane projections or recesses, pilasters, piers, columns, colonnades, arcades, or similar architectural features that create a distinct facade elevation. A bay must not exceed 40 feet in width. This is to prevent the large black blank wall commercial building type. Building facades and frontages must incorporate at least one of the following: a decorative fence or wall not more than 4.5 feet high that extends along the front property line, and an open porch at least 6 feet deep. So this is the traditional neighborhood development feature, you know, the idea of having porches and having that sort of image.
And so for Brattleboro, this applies to a defined geography, a zone.
There's
within.
different pictures for each district.
Yeah, okay.
There's some common elements that, and while it's nice to say you want it to be compatible and harmonious with what's next to it, it's harder to do that and achieve what people really want. If you think about the middle project, if you had a standard that said it should be in character, no offense.
You don't like me or what?
No, the dollar
doesn't want to open.
You don't. You just have a standard that says the building should match the building next door. It wouldn't work for that.
You should look like a dollar store from the door.
Yeah, exactly.
you should agree.
Anyway, I think that I just want to back up and say I totally support, as a planner and as a select board member, the process of the community engagement. It's a real challenge, but I think I totally agree that community character and attractiveness is something that people really value, and the challenge is how to achieve that without it seeming overwhelming or deterrent or causing affordability concerns. I think you hit the nail on the head with that, and I agree. It's going to take time. The zoning ordinance is a garden that's been planted over many years and not weeded.
Great.
And it really needs, and there's design elements all through that.
Sure.
It's just in one section, the standards that are references. There's the parking in the front yard, and there's all kinds of things all through it that needs to be tied together.
Without looking like cookie cutter.
I think the main deterrent for an applicant is just to look at the ordinance, and it's over 200 pages.
Sure.
It isn't
That's
so
a big
much
problem.
design advisory, they hardly get to that. But I mean,
It's on page 180.
yeah. So I wonder what happens in the several months between now and when we do. We have a piece of this old piece of machinery in the zoning ordinance that is not operating at this point. So I volunteered to do it because, if there's a desire to advertise again and seek people who could operate it in the interim, that's great. But without it, were we to get an application
Where our process requires that they be involved.
or the
Absolutely agree.
DRB wants to have the input, then we should be able to do that. And I'm not interested in doing this personally, only because we haven't been successful in getting any applicants to it. And I do think we should reappoint at least Jim Pulver, whose term is up, at the very least, so that there's some minimum for him.
Are we at this point now, or does Alicia have more to say?
Well, I'm sorry.
That was a good digression. Yeah.
I get boring to listen to.
Not in the slightest.
No, not at all.
So, I think I just have 2 additional points that I missed, and so thank you, Fred, for giving me a chance to reflect.
You're so gracious. You're very gracious.
Yeah. Yeah.
I gotta use that one. So right now, while there are a lot of standards or guidelines discussed throughout the ordinance, and what I would like to see is greater objectivity for the review. So standards that can allow less subjectivity and are a little bit more detailed. And then along the objectivity pathway is having, I would propose maybe regular trainings with the DAC if we are to keep the DAC in the long term, and especially training in the short term. They meet on demand, and it can be months and sometimes a year before they're actually needed to convene. And it's not to say that the members of the DAC aren't potentially experts in design,
Sure.
but communicating the design is the challenge, and communicating it as objectively as possible is the greater challenge. And I put the stress on objectivity because that increases fairness and equity and decreases arbitrary decision making.
So my question is, okay, I agree that we have the DAC right now, and that we need to advertise, get more people, and appoint people. What more do we have to do to decide, yes, we want to keep the DAC, or we don't? I mean, you presented a case basically for and against. So
let me try and see if I get this right. Our planning and subdivision ordinance specifies where the DAC is utilized in the development process, and we should not modify that at this point when we're about to have a new town plan, which needs to be aligned with which our subdivision ordinance needs to be aligned. So once we have a master plan finalized and adopted, we will begin work on a more streamlined, readable, accessible zoning and subdivision ordinance, which incorporates or moves towards this goal of form-based design zones. How's that?
Thus not needing a DAC?
Very close, perfect.
Just
I'll take it.
not needing a DAC when we get
Well,
to
it
that point?
depends. We would say in there who implements it.
Well,
Alicia was saying that some of this is done administratively.
Yes, if you have good, clear, written design guidelines, they should be able to be followed by just about anyone.
Okay.
Anyone that can read.
Okay.
And it should reduce the need to hire consultants, but especially if somebody does hire consultants, they should be able to be in conformance with the guidelines as closely as possible to where they might only need an administrative review.
If there was a sorry, this is way down the road.
Yeah.
But let's say there is an administrative decision that this meets the form-based code for this. Is that appealable in any way?
It's yes, because it's part of the process.
Okay.
The public review process and due diligence. There's always a means to appeal.
Okay.
So any decision of the administrative officer is appealable to the development review board. And the board sits as though they are the administrative officer and says, did they judge this properly with this standard? And so there's an opportunity for that. That's built in. You know, the statute originally conceived of this as either a design control district, a separate board, or a historic preservation district, that commission that, and that's a sort of a parallel, same sort of thing as the development review board. And we elected some years ago not to do that, but to have an advisory process. And as it was conceived, the idea was at the time that you apply, and while the hearing time is running for the DRB hearing, you have other design input to it. The application goes to Emily for what it needs for water and sewer, and it goes to the fire chief for the fire. And at the same time, while that warning time is running, you schedule a meeting of the design advisory committee that is not where there are design issues, let me put it that way. Not every project involved that, but that was the way it was conceived of, and the idea is that you start at the conceptual level when it is easier to talk about the ideas and design than when it comes to the DRB, and you have to have all the plans finalized. You've invested all in the engineering and all the design work, and you've got a hearing room full of people who are concerned. The design advisory process was designed not to be a public hearing process. In fact, the statute says it's not supposed to be that. It ended up operating in a different way. During Jen's time, they decided they were going to only call for this if the DRB asked for it sort of afterwards. And so, anyway, the problem with the Design Advisory Committee, quite frankly, is that you don't know who we're going to get as people applying for it. In the perfect world, you'd have people who were, moderates, experienced in the field, landscape architect and architect, who are experienced in design matters and can offer constructive suggestions that help an applicant through the process, not just subject them to it. But when we advertise for people to fill board positions, we don't necessarily get that. And it would be much better to have form-based zoning with something that could be administered administratively. In cases where there was a historic landmark involved, you want to have an expert for an historic preservation aspects or something like that. You can bring in. And then
could the DRB request an expert if they needed that kind of specific?
We used to have a little money in the planning office budget for consulting for things that we particularly needed consulting. We didn't use that very often, but I would. It's much better and more predictable to manage this through the administration.
If this can be done administratively and once in a while by some experts.
Yeah.
Then do we need DAC?
That would be my question. With everything you're going to do, and
no, just
new plan,
I'm just curious.
to zoning and ordinance.
Yeah, you could. I mean,
so, the other question I have would be DAC is an advisory committee, right? So
that's what it says.
Well, that's how enforceable would that be? Like, do I have to abide by it? If not,
well,
I can take the next step. Is that the thing? It's an advisory to the DRB.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and there are plenty of instances where the people say, that's nice, but we're
and make a decision based on that recommendation.
But if planning and zoning department can do all that,
well,
then why would we insert 5 other people to slow it down?
The zoning administrator is already doing a cursory review against the existing design standards when there is an application that needs to go through conditional review. That section has standards that are design oriented. So it's already happening, just not in a detailed level. It will be like, it could be like a recipe book. You follow the recipe, you get a cake.
Right.
Unless you really are a bad baker.
I wish it was that simple. Projects aren't always as simple as that, but in my experience.
Certainly not.
You know, so we have adopted in the conditional use standards criterion 8 of Act 250, which is, you know, are you familiar with this? A project shall not have an cause undue adverse effect on aesthetics, scenic attribute of the area. And that is a standard that it has a lot of law built around it. It's been upheld. It's not unconstitutionally vague, but it is not highly predictable.
Right.
You look at things in the context, and you look, are there expressly written standards or guidelines, or are there reasonable things that are done, like hiring an architect or a landscape architect, or things to mitigate it. And then there's the oh my God test. You know, is it shocking to the sensibilities of the average person, which is a pretty low bar for this town. I think people care more than just, you know, not having the oh my God reaction. So the challenge is what can we do in the interim if we were to get a challenging application. Right now, design advisory is only advisory. Even if it were fully functioning and had all the best people, it's only advisory.
No, and I think, as you suggested, we do need to have this available. It says that it is, and we should advertise for applicants as we are intending to for the reconstituted park and rec board. And,
Yeah, I agree. But in this case, and probably the same case with DRB, why would we constitute a DAC from people that just say, hey, I want to be on the DAC, and don't have the experience and knowledge or the ability to be able to do
so looking for volunteers.
Well, think of how you
well, I know
vet people that go on the DRB.
But Alicia and her,
no offense, DRB.
Yeah, I know. But I know Alicia and her office is going to do all this work in helping them, and then you send it to be reviewed by some people that have no knowledge of what they're supposed to be doing, or background, or should be. I shouldn't be on it. I mean, well, I don't think any select board member should be on it, but so maybe we said. So I don't think the select board member should be on it. It's not us to be in her, but maybe we set a criteria and put out a criteria. What qualifications do people have to be on a DSC? I know you.
Well, the ordinance actually has that, and but finding people who can do this that are ideal, it's not always been successful.
Sure.
We were very lucky for a lot of years that we had Glenn Andrews, who was fantastic.
But you're not going to build your house with a builder who doesn't have any experience with building.
Well,
so why would we have somebody in the process of approving buildings that don't have any experience in buildings?
We have Jim Pulver, who was the chief architect for.
I don't know what he is. He's probably fine, but I don't know.
He was the architect for the Town Hall Theater Edition.
That's great. You got one person. That's great.
Well, Fred, you want to build a process that can be run by mortals. None of us who have ended up here on this board are professional town runners in many senses, except you do with some scope, and well, you're more familiar with the workings of municipalities coming in here than any of the rest of us were, and you want to have criteria where it's clear what the decision is to the folks that are doing the advising or the deciding in the quasi-judicial or thumbs up, thumbs down, that meets criteria or it doesn't kind of way. The document you shared with me last month of the sources of the guidelines, right, that listed 6 or 7 books referencing, like, this is where the objective view of what is good and bad design, what is aesthetically pleasing and not. It's too much for mortals to do, I think.
Well, at the time, I gotta tell you, getting people to agree on what standards and references should be used for a zoning ordinance is even more challenging than a town plan. A town plan, you can have generalized language and talk in platitudes, but
Yeah.
Honestly, zoning regulations draws out a lot more people who are concerned about the specifics and how is it going to affect this
For sure.
situation. And it's much more complex, and Alicia's correct. It needs a lot more attention and work to put it together, particularly if you're going to redo the whole zoning ordinance and try to smoothen that up. That's a huge project.
This is a big process that you've laid out. Do you have a sense? I hope that we have more conversations about your ideas for changes to the process and how the pieces get moved around. Do you have a sense of when the planning commission can?
How's your schedule coming on the time?
Bring us the new plan. Sorry.
No, that's quite all right. So we're probably 3/4 of the way through the drafting process. I have a few more sections to get through, but my hope is within a month.
Wow. Okay.
We'll have something. We'll have a kind of a full rough draft of the plan, and then we'll need to go through.
Start scheduling public hearings and such.
So your schedule you had originally.
Maybe a few weeks after, yeah, probably beginning. I can't believe we're almost to July already, but yeah, we'll probably be looking at August.
Sure, that sounds real soon.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, it's all right.
It's not for the lack of effort.
No, understood.
I want to give props to the planning commission because they've been great and really supportive and thoughtful throughout the entire process since I've been here.
Nice.
Well,
Danielle, Izzy, comments or thoughts to share with the conversation?
I just wanted to thank Alicia for bringing in a lot of clarity. I think originally when it was brought up internally to the select board, I don't think we really realized all the steps and processes. You know, I think we thought of it, you know, as any other board that we have, and not something that necessarily had a ordinance attached to it. So it was very great to kind of get that clarity and kind of understand how something like this goes along within our town plan, and you know the steps that a developer or someone would have who is interested in developing a property would have to take. So I'm all for efficiency and making it really easy for a developer, and balancing that with regulations and ensuring that it keeps everyone safe. So any opportunity to kind of learn more about that, I think, is really important. So thanks so much for coming.
Thanks, Izzy.
I feel similarly. I mean, it seems like a lot of things since coming on that I'm learning about. So many. Some things are clunky, and it's time to really sort of like tidy up a little and make them make a little more sense. The processes, I guess. And that made a lot of sense to me what you were speaking of. So I look forward to, I don't know how it happens, but I do look forward to like being a part of like figuring out like what the future is in that way, so that we have a good balance of maintaining the aesthetic with also gaining more interest in building here.
Cool.
It will be exciting.
I'm just interested in finding out what we are going to do next. What is our next step on this? That's a very important decision to make.
Sure.
Do we go with appointing somebody, or you're going to wait for the update on that?
We have Mr. Pulver.
Jim Pulver's, been on for many,
and Chris
many
Yoli.
years. What?
And Chris Yoli is on, right?
He's on. And then there's another George Marcus. So you need at least 3 members.
Right.
And
By ordinance?
Well, it's a 5-person one in the ordinance,
Okay.
so 3 would be a minimum quorum.
Yes.
Jim Pulver, he works for Breadloaf, and I suppose we've all heard the news
We
about
have.
Breadloaf, and I feel for him in that situation, but if he were available and wanted to continue, he would be, I think, the most important addition. He has, one of the good things is that he knows about architecture, so that he often makes suggestions. You can see what you're trying to do here. If you use this material,
you're talking about Jim.
Yeah,
You're talking about Jim, right?
Jim. If
So
you use this material, it could save money, and that's in there. People are going, yeah, and so that has been wonderful when that can happen. And
We'll have staff reach out and see if he's still interested after our lengthy delay.
the key is guiding, because they're apt to talk about any aspect
Correct.
of
And,
a project, and
Right.
so we're
Understanding
they need to
what
be-
the question
they need to be
is
channeled to
that's
say,
in front of
here's
them.
the standard.
Yes.
The Queechee standard. Is there anything in here that's, oh my God, and are there any expressly written standards? And take them through that, and then other things. And this requires the staff to sort of
Right.
guide and channel.
So, Alicia, training for this board, is that something that you provide, or does it exist in a place?
Sure, it's what JR does with the DRB.
Is that kind of it?
It should be created. We don't have an existing training manual right now
Yeah.
for the DAC that
Yeah.
I'm aware of or have come across. But similar to what Adam Luigi was discussing tonight, I could reach out to them and
Yeah.
see.
Neat.
Other towns have been through this before. Really, I think the first step for training would be orienting to the guiding documents. And going through the ordinance and discussing the principles of good constructive feedback to an applicant.
Right.
What that looks like. That could be fairly simple, but I think I would want to reach out to Adam Luigi and see if they have anything preset that they could assist with.
The form said that they would help out with non-regulatory.
Yeah.
Well, they just they've held other trainings for planning and zoning, and JR and I just sat in on a statewide training at the regional offices. So they're always open, and if they already have the materials, they're
Right.
willing to.
We don't need
share.
to reinvent every wheel.
Yeah, I try not to.
Even if it is the
I
Vermont way.
can avoid it. 'Cause
Yeah.
There's bigger wheels to make.
Yes. So I just, I would like us to find a way to have you as the staff at some point justify if you wanted DAC or if you don't want a DAC.
Oh, the pathways.
And I know we've got it set up right now, and we should probably go ahead and try to recruit people. But in your conversation, in what you described, I heard you give reasons why you really, if everything is perfect, you don't need a DAC, and it's going to be a while to get there. But I really, so we talked like that, and then we talked like, okay, this DAC is going to do this. So I would really just like to get to a point and say yes, or no.
Recommendation.
So some kind of recommendation, and I'm good with that. If you say yes, I'm all in. If you say no, then
Right, but the changes will come from changes in the zoning and subdivision.
I know
ordinance.
that. I know
Okay.
that. I know. And
And-
I know that might never be a process.
And what does a more transparent process look like?
Right.
And does it require a secondary body for issues of aesthetic and character, or is this something that can be done within the single DRB process?
Right.
And so if that's where we go, which sounds like we kind of want to do that. And you're saying it's an arduous process and there's other things that are priorities. Right.
For creating the design guidelines, yes.
And so like perhaps until those are created, like if we were to continue with the DAC in the meantime.
Yep, kind of have to. It's what the ordinance says we do.
Okay. So then,
Yeah,
is there anything that can be done in the short term that can inform the DAC to help the process
Right.
that where they are contributing to not hold up?
Yes.
They need guidelines.
Yeah, and I think that's the training that
Yeah.
we were discussing, and having it being very clear what the questions are.
So that's the
that are in
short
front of them. Yeah.
And so I was just offering to do that in the interim, but if you want to advertise for other people and see if you can find better people, I think right now the way the system's operated is they have moved it out of the front end of the process to only ask for it if it's desired by the staff or by the DRB. And that's worked for the stewards, and it's worked for the middle apartments and a couple of other minor things. So it can work, and you can just say that, look, some of these things are not applicable to the, or so there's a way to manage it. There's not a lot of development activity that's likely to happen right now during the economy. I'm hoping it would happen to the grand list, but so.
and that would be Alicia's responsibility to manage that.
DAC?
Yes.
Technically, according to the ordinance, it would be the zoning administrator.
Okay, all right. Who
but-
works for you? Yes.
Yes.
Got that.
Yep. But I would work with JR on that.
Okay, good.
Is there more that anyone wants to bring into this discussion? I know it's getting dark and it's one of the longest days of the year, and I feel like we've been here for a while. So I don't want to belabor any points, but I want to make sure that we've
I think this
gotten it all on the table.
I think this is a great start for us to better understand the process and where we think and where you think we should be heading. So yeah, I'm good with this.
I see a lot of nodding. Is he? You satisfied? Yeah, fantastic. All right. Thank you so much, Alicia.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
Thank you.
She's got a long drive home. Wow, those really wonderful roads that go into New York. Woo-hoo.
I'm gonna be looking at the views.
There's 9 stewards between here and her house. So she can start.
Plenty of places. Thanks so much.
Get a milkshake in each one.
All right. I think that brings us to select board concerns. Let me see.
Well, do you want to talk about what we want from the audit?
From the auditor?
The things I brought up in the minutes.
Um,
Come out. Too late.
Yeah, let's put it on another agenda as just a quick little conversation and see if we can get that into the next audit
I
contract.
think if we're gonna ask for another auditor, you need to get out there and start looking for them.
I think that's right.
Ending the fiscal year.
What are we talking about?
Talking about having the auditor come before the select board and deliver the report. What was your other concern?
But it's not on the agenda today.
It is not on the agenda.
Yeah, and it's not one.
Correct.
And we're potentially gonna put out for bid.
I mean, Nick has mentioned more than a few times that he would like to put the audit out for bid next year.
Right.
He believes there's interest.
Great.
So
Why? Do you feel you could proceed with that? Or do you need an action from the board?
I think we can.
You can do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not us.
Okay, good. And the other things were, should there be an executive summary and the old auditor is coming to us, or are we gonna look ahead instead? And
Those things are both great.
You weren't here when you had the presentation, but you probably watched
I'm
it.
watching it right now. It's on my screen. Actually, I'm making my way through the 2 meetings I missed.
Nicely done.
Well, So there, there were some audit findings in there that were pretty awkward.
Yeah, it was.
And they're stiffer than the one in the prior year. And I guess the only real worry that people have is, if you just read those findings, it sounds like, gee, we're not paying much attention to financial controls and reporting. And Nick explained it well enough so that, they're just different kinds of auditors. But still, I think everybody wants to know, besides that nobody's absconding with public funds, that we're in sound condition and that the manager feels comfortable with where we are or is implementing a direction with a new auditor. I think that's where we want to be basically at.
Perfect. Fred, I'm going to count that as your select board concerns.
I don't know.
We'll move to Isabel.
I am at Girls State at PTSU Randolph, and we have, I believe, 13 girls from Addison County, 3 of which are from Middlebury, so it's really great to be around young women. These are rides with the seniors at our local high schools and public school co-ops who are interested in civics and community, so it's really great to spend a week here doing like a mock government. And I help them with campaigning and speech writing, so it's been really great, and you'll see us in the Addison Independent soon. I also just wanted to highlight, I think at some point, I may have read that it was the last clerk of the works for the library, but when I went back today to double check, I don't think that that's true. So I'm sure we will get more clerk of the works, but I did just want to highlight that those have been really great, and I thank Judith for those together the communities who maybe don't pass by the library or downtown every day to know what's going on with the library. And in 2 months, we'll be seeing it open, so that's very exciting.
Awesome. Thanks, Izzy. Farhad.
I'm good.
Okay. Okay. Fred?
So our next meeting is a hearing on a charter.
Yeah.
And, David did a great job of posting this on the website and getting it updated, and thank you. Still interested in seeing how the grand list is coming out, and among your things to do when you're back to school, so to speak.
I'm going to assure you it's not growing enough to help us with our funding municipal services.
So we all got one of these emails today that was all the select board on it, but I didn't see Mark's or any administration person copied. This is on the TAC, the Transportation Advisory Committee, came in today. Did you all see that? There's 110 people on it, and select board members and all. The TAC,
I yelled at them for putting too many people on the 2 lists.
Yeah, well, it's really for our delegates who are in the Transportation Advisory Committee to survey, but they're interested in other input, and if you haven't got it, someone forward it to Mark. And anyway, that's all. Thanks.
Good. Danielle.
I don't have much.
Okay.
We started early today.
Yeah, good.
So, give us a review of the clerk training? I mean,
that's a lot of hours. That's a lot of hours for municipal service. Thank you. Yeah, absolutely.
It was okay.
Yeah. You're ready.
Those little machines were neat.
Yeah, they are neat.
You let me go?
Go for it, Dan.
Izzy, I think what you're doing right there, where you're at, is just a really great place.
Yeah.
It's wonderful to work with people like that young and having you as an example. So thank you. By the way, the clerk of the works for the library is outstanding. She is a fabulous person, and this is, I think, her swan song on doing these things. She's got a lot of experience, but she is wonderful. And her clerk of the works
design advisory committee.
She'd be perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Her husband would be perfect too.
Yeah.
But you just can't have any meetings in the winter anymore because they're going to hit the road again. I visited the library today again for a tour. It's 5 weeks from them turning it over and going to the punch list.
Yep.
It is absolutely breathtaking what the colors and the fabrics and the angles and the designs and the things that go together, the multi-levels, the nooks, the crannies, the woodwork is just in every room you go into is just something. And I took Michelle and she was overwhelmed.
Wow.
This is just a person that she reads all these things and she finally got to see it. And I think when we open it on the 29th, it's going to be spectacularly received. So, and they're on schedule.
Yeah.
And
Still.
the mini is getting a ton of like.
Super busy.
Yeah, there's kids.
Yeah.
All over the
They
place.
did
in
a
there.
great job
They're gonna
with that.
love going to this new facility.
Oh, absolutely. And the staff is going to like working there.
It's the 28th, right? Not right.
It's a Saturday. Is that the 20th?
Is it
That's the
Saturday?
29th.
Is that a Saturday?
Somebody have a calendar
29th is,
from it?
I know
August
29th is Saturday, yeah.
Okay.
So.
All right.
Very good.
Do you have any concerns?
Thanks, Mark.
29.
I was looking for our planning and zoning and subdivision ordinance today, and I couldn't find a search function on our website, which I'd swear we used to have.
So we took that away because that search function is not run by Revise. That's a Google feature.
Okay.
And it continuously pulled up old versions of pages.
Yep.
You might remember a couple months ago, we
Oh,
had
I do.
complaints from people saying this information is wrong, this information is wrong.
Yeah,
In
yeah.
reality, they were opening versions
Old
of pages from 6 months
files.
ago, 3 months ago, right?
Yep.
So, in lieu
So is
of,
this just hygiene in maintaining which files are available so that
no, once
it gets
we,
walked and
once we update a page, it is accurate on the website. But it doesn't
it's all our new IT guys gonna take care of it and we're gonna have search functionality again? Is that what you're saying? Pointing at Drew?
Bring it back.
State your name, please.
Would you like there to be search functionality?
I think there should be search functionality. I think not everything fits into the categories. Yeah.
Okay, yes, I will work on that.
Okay.
Because
it shows, but when you hit it, nothing happens.
Correct.
Yes, because the old search functionality always cached old versions of web pages, and we asked, "Can you fix this?" And they said no.
Right.
So
I would love to push Revise to have a search functionality that works, and also to have a subscribable calendar.
those sound like great ideas.
Wouldn't that be amazing? I would love it if all of the town meetings just showed up as an overlay on my calendar, so I knew what was going on. That would make me very happy.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Drew. I appreciate the update from the IT trenches.
You're welcome.
That's all I've got. Yeah, I'm sorry that I took us to 9:17.
We know you work really hard not to.
I try.
I'll move to adjourn.
There it is.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor of adjourning?
Aye.